fact, let's just might as well do away with that. Still awaiting it to go live.
Oh, play. What's happening here?
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Right. We're good to go. Right. So let's hit record on that. As people make their way in. Boom. Hello, Egg Chasers. It's the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself
to yourself on your
or
phone?
the game too seriously. All right, I'll turn my phone down. Sorry.
Oh my good God.
Shambolic start to today's show. But thank you very much for listening. We are here to talk about rugby, and there's been plenty of it to talk about. We're in the Rugby Dungeon. I'm Tim. That's JB.
Hello, Tim.
And that's Phil.
Hello, Tim.
We are currently streaming on YouTube. You can find us. Just go search Egg Chasers, hit subscribe, like, and yeah, get those comments and thoughts in as we go. Equally, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Cocker. He's at JBeardmore. We're at Rugby Podcast. And thank you to our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com/Egg Chasers. That's all the boring stuff out the way. I didn't get the memo about wearing shorts. Sorry.
It's just a weather thing, mate.
Yeah, it's been
straightforward weather thing.
17 degrees today.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Get the shorts on.
Yeah. I quite sometimes go to, I sometimes go to Greece. You know.
What you're trying to say is you've got a home here and you've got another home elsewhere.
When I'm in Greece, quite often we go in like October or like this time of year. Actually, is really nice. And Brits just are on the beach in like 24 degrees or whatever. Obviously, and you get the locals walking past in coats, just going, "What are they doing?"
I'm glad you mentioned this because I've got a theory, which is we always start our short wearing too late. And then finish it too late too. So I think people start wearing shorts about May, but then they finish about mid-November, October, November.
Definitely late October.
So I always same with the lights. So everyone starts appreciating the light when it's too late, and then it's lightest day of the year, and it's the depressing decline. So I always try and enjoy things from about late March.
But often the weather, we've been a bit unlucky this year. The weather has been pretty bad. Certainly up here. It's been flipping free. I mean, earlier this week it was below freezing overnight for several days. So yeah, we've not been able to enjoy the shorts as much up to this point.
Disagree. I'm always in shorts.
And that concludes our weather small talk segment of the podcast.
As our lives got that boring that weather is what we talk about, because we can't enjoy a Negroni yet.
Let's talk about that. I went to a beer garden all Friday and got very drunk.
Did you enjoy any Negronis?
No, I didn't. I don't think that was on the menu in the Fletcher Moss.
Because I went to Soho on Thursday evening.
I saw the footage from Soho and I felt very, very jealous.
It was ridiculous.
Was it really?
To the point where it was almost impossible to get a drink anywhere. I managed to get one glass of Albarino in a little oyster bar.
Is that it?
And one pint. Which got a takeaway pint, was stood on the street enjoying a takeaway pint alongside hundreds of other people, and the police came and moved everyone who was not sat down at a table.
Moved them where?
What?
Where?
What?
Along.
Honestly,
just move.
What?
Just get.
I don't want to get into this now because that is, if they did that is outrageous.
Well,
so I don't know what the laws are on drinking on the street.
That is outrageous.
Well, who knows?
Certain areas
go and stop some crime, for God's sake. Jeez. Anyway, sorry.
It was very good to get amongst it anyway.
Good. Well, actually, I will sort of segue us back towards rugby via an email from Peter Shaw, who's emailed contacteggchasers@gmail.com.
Dr. Peter Shaw.
Yeah.
He's a doctor.
And among his many things that he's written about, which I might mention a few of those as we get through the games, he said at the end of his email, "I'm also attaching a picture of my bar at home because I've come to the realisation I'm a drinking man with a rugby problem. In that I always set my bottles up in a scrum formation." And he sent us a wonderful picture, which I'll chuck on Twitter, because I think this is a good idea. I'd like to see other scrum formations or back lines of your booze. He's got an Italian Aperol representing Parise at number 8, a Glenlivet Scotch at flanker,
small
representing
bottle.
Hamish Watson.
Yeah.
a Bombay Sapphire gin for Marrow at lock, Amaro for Castro Giovanni at prop, and a Rochambeau Irish gin for Rob Herring at hooker.
Lovely.
Among his lineup. I will tweet that one, but
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Peter. And on to the rugby. A quick scan over the news. What's been going on, Phil?
Ooh, a few things. Obviously, we had the Lions coaching announcement earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Any surprises from that? In that for you guys?
Well, I mean, they are there on merit. Don't get me wrong, but I also kind of think that they're kind of uninspired too.
So I really like Townsend being in there.
Mm-hmm.
McBride and Neil Jenkins just feels like we've seen this before certainly in Wales, and the Lions.
You've triggered me.
Go on, you're often triggered.
Yeah, no.
What are you triggered about now?
Kicking coaches for the Lions. Why? Can anyone tell me why they need a kicking coach?
Well, I haven't. You said this, and I think a bunch of people have told you. Oh yeah, kicking coach is really important strategically in terms of assessing the opposition, the game, managing the game plan, and supporting with all that kind of stuff. So it isn't just there you go, Owen, George, Johnny, Dan. Hold the ball in two hands and use your foot.
Well,
swing your leg.
So the thing is, I do know that Jenkins does do things like kicking exits, so that's fine. So my contention now is not are kicking coaches necessary, because I think they're probably not necessary, but should they be renamed and be called strategy coaches? And if they are renamed and called strategy coaches, why do we need someone who historically is able to dissect a set of sticks with a ball to do that strategy?
A rose by any other name still smells as sweet. So does it really matter what they're called?
Yes, it does.
It does to you.
Yes, it does. It does. And do you know what? What really got me about all this is the amount of people that stood up for kicking coaches with nothing more than pseudoscience. Well, it might help if they get the jeeps. He might be able to run on information. I can run on information. I
want to be a quad coach. That's what I'd be if I could be added. Lions quad coach.
Well, here's where I got to this whole thing in the end, right? Which is kicking coaches, if they were really important to do a closed skill for kicking, which is what most people assumes that most kicking coaches do, and actually that is the majority of a club's kicking coach's role, is the closed skill of kicking. If it's that important, why don't they have their own individual kicking coaches?
So some people do.
Gareth Steenson.
Yeah, but why don't they bring them on tour with them, like a golf caddy?
So some do, as in, what's the name? Dave Aldred.
Oh, yeah.
Toured with, I think, George Ford and Wilkinson, and I've seen him do stuff with James O'Connor.
And Johnny Wilkinson is seconded with England, but then obviously doesn't go back with George. But I think he regularly keeps in contact with Owen Farrell and George Ford.
The fact that he goes with England, I sort of think that it should... So George Ford should shut up with his briefcase, his tie, his little jacket, and also Dave Aldred. That's what he should do. And if Dave Aldred is also shared with Owen Farrell, great, but he should show up with Neil Jenkins, and then Dan Pickett should show up with someone else.
Basically, it should be like assistant attack coach, basically. Because it's what you do with the ball, and the kicking's a huge part of that in the modern game.
Yeah, so I wonder if they should... The kicking coach literally does just kicking, and if the strategy stuff is so important... Go and get a strategy coach, but then are we then straight?
But it's basically like you have a forwards coach, but then you might have a line-out coach.
Yes,
and you have an attack coach, but you also have a kicking coach. It's the same dynamic. One's a sort of overarching, and one's a specific element.
But there's also in that same guys. Well, there's also the skills coach and the attack coach, and there's probably, depend on the setup, there's probably massive overlap between those two jobs. I think part of it, certainly in this instance, so not speaking about any others, is that Neil Jenkins is probably very good on tour. As in, he's good and he's fun and he brings the camaraderie. And that's a key part of getting the Lions together when you've got such a condensed window of time to get the team spirit and get them playing in the right way. You need characters like that. Like Matt Stevens toured in 2013, not because he was the third best prop, but partly because he could scrummage on both sides, but also partly because...
Lad.
Just bring a professional comedian.
Well, maybe that's an option. But there's always... A professional comedian is going to be on the outside, isn't there? There's something about being there, having been there and done it.
I just think the idea, and the people... What I couldn't quite get over is... people disagreeing with me on this.
Was that why you were triggered?
Yeah, because if it's just teaching kicking And these guys are the best kickers in the world. In the world. Maybe some of the best kickers that have ever walked the planet, statistically, right? Do we think that 6 weeks with a different kicking coach will improve, make them worse, or they'll probably stay the same? And I'd suggest they probably broadly stay the same. It could actually damage them because they're so finely tuned, because they're so good already.
Well, I don't know. I suspect trying different things generally will be of benefit. Like putting people in different scenarios, getting them thinking a different way. That is generally of benefit.
But it's like a golfer changing his swing just before the Masters.
No, but it's not
necessarily. Cause
Neil Jenkins isn't saying here, George, or whoever.
Kick with your left.
Completely change your kicking technique.
No,
it's strategic.
Yeah. So. I
think we've gone way too far down this rabbit hole.
I know that. I'm just amazed the amount of people that don't know that. Like, yeah, you absolutely need a kicking coach. No, you don't need a kicking coach. Strategy coach, fine, but call him that.
I think you might be right on Gats just wants lads on tour.
I'm not sure about that.
To get that atmosphere straight away. And there's stories of the last tour that the coaches used to have proper drinking sessions.
But this is just going down like the rabbit. This is almost like superstition. Like just bring him along because he's a good lad. I can't get on board with that.
Because I wouldn't go along I think just a good lad. It's underselling it a little bit. It's the importance of the team building.
Yeah,
you talk, JB, about the importance of drinking a Negroni with your buddies.
Yeah,
because it brings you closer together.
Absolutely.
And that bond, the painful experience and the bonding is really, really important, particularly when you've got such a condensed schedule.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what we should do. You should grab the Lions on this day book and let's see if there's anything in there. Just as we're talking Lions, just grab that book.
Today's date. I've learned from this is absolutely brilliant.
18th of April.
18th of April. Lions on this day. 21st of May. 18th of May. 10th of May. Ooh.
18th of April.
18th of April 1993, Lawrence Delalio scored a try and Nick Beale kicked 3 conversions as England beat Australia 21-17 to win the inaugural World Cup Sevens tournament. What's that got to do with anything?
That's not Lions.
What's that got to do with anything?
I watched that on a rugby tour, like under 12s rugby tour. We went to like a holiday park and somewhere, I can't remember where, South Wales, I think.
Also playing in the victorious English team was scrum half Matt Dawson. The trio all went on to South Africa 1997 with Delalio and Dawson.
That's a really tenuous one.
Come off it.
That is tenuous.
Come off it. Hang on.
How many Lions tours have ever done anything on the 18th of April?
That's a good point. It's a very good point.
I mean, some of the old ones were like 6 months long.
Crikey.
That's a very good point.
I'm not sure this one is really that relevant, but here we go. 1980 tourist Ray Gravel was admitted to hospital with... I can't read it.
With what?
I can't read it, it's too awful.
Can you give it to Tim to read? Okay.
No, it's not funny. It's not funny, and now we're laughing because it's inappropriate.
No, it's not reading. Let's leave it there.
Shall we stop there?
That book is an abomination outside of touring window time.
I'll not read it. It's not funny, all right, so don't laugh. In 1980, tourist Ray Gravel was admitted to hospital with diabetes.
Oh, God. No.
I can't do it.
Don't. It's not funny.
Not funny.
We're not laughing at it. Shall I try?
No.
No, because it's just a fact. We're reading from a book.
It's just a fact.
We're not laughing at it.
We're laughing at the book.
I admitted to hospital with diabetes-related infection.
It's not funny.
that caused his right leg to be amputated below the knee.
Wow.
Yeah.
Despite the operation, Gravel's health problems.
Just put it down. Put it down. There's no
Stop. Don't keep digging, please.
That is all. What are they doing?
Why is
that in a book?
Yeah.
This book is called The British and Irish Lions on this day. History, facts, and figures for every day of the year.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I'm glad that we reached.
I mean, the 18th of April. Yeah, that's GB. I mean, you were right. I have learnt things I didn't know there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I needed to particularly know those things. God. If I can just put it mildly, I read ahead in that little paragraph. It got worse.
It got worse. It got a lot worse. I'm glad we didn't finish that off.
Other news.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Phil. God.
The European Rugby Players of the Year nominees were announced.
Oh,
okay. I didn't see this.
So there was, how many is that? 15 players were announced. Everyone apart from one is from the semi-finalists of the Champions Cup.
Let me guess.
So a load of La Rochelle, a load of Toulouse, a load of Leinster.
Okay.
And a load of a few.
Jack
one
Conan?
Bordeaux. No Jack Conan.
Robbie Henshaw.
Henshaw is in there, yes.
Yeah.
Henshaw is playing his way into a Lions shirt.
He's outstanding.
He's been great this year.
He has. He really has. What did you make of Paul O'Connell endorsing Owen Farrell for captain of the Lions?
I've got lots of thoughts on this. And I want to link it to something which I want to talk about later, which is directors of rugby and leadership and all sorts of other bits and pieces. Effectively, yeah, I guess, he's a good leader. I don't think he's the best player. I don't think he's the best 10, but I think he's a bloody good leader.
That does link onto another thing, which is Gatland saying he might not pick England players because of the schedules.
Yeah. And then sending his coaches to bloody Doncaster.
Yeah. And
do you know that?
Yeah.
Was that not a joke? Was that
No.
not a joke?
No. Townsend and Tandy.
I saw the picture of the two coaches, and because they had face masks on, I thought it was someone making a joke about two bald blokes at Doncaster.
No,
it was. I'm pretty certain it was Townsend and Tandy.
Oh, to see Saracens, yeah.
Yeah, to watch the Saracens.
Of course, that makes sense now. They're playing Saris.
Yeah.
But what exactly do they think they're going to learn?
God knows, because they've only seen them 3 weeks ago.
And Doncaster allegedly are furious. 2 Owen Farrell high shots. No TMO, just getting away with whatever he wants at the moment.
Go on, Phil.
Yeah, back to the nominees. There's one nominee who has played 60 minutes of Heineken Cup rugby.
Who might that be?
He's injured for a lot of the season.
Say again?
One of the nominees, Leinster player, has played 60 minutes of Heineken Cup rugby.
How can they have got in as player? What? That's a farce.
It is a bit of a farce. It's Ty Furlong.
He's
He's obviously an incredible player. But has played 60 minutes in the competition
That's
this
a
year.
joke.
Yeah, but some teams lost all their games and got to the quarters. I mean, this isn't.
One team did lose all their games and get to the quarters.
This isn't a normal. year.
I think.
But the 60 minutes does seem a bit ridiculous. So other nominees: Aldrit, Levani Bottier, Dupont, Godin from La Rochelle, Jalibert from Bordeaux.
He could win it.
Jerome Kano, Hugo Keenan, Marchand from Toulouse, Matsushima from Clermont is the only one not in the top 4, the semi-finals. Entomac, Raymond Rule, definitely, Raymond Rule's class. Actually, in both the recent games, last 16 and quarters. Will Skelton and Josh van der Fleer.
Excellent. One little message from Paul Tinks on the live chat said Ronan O'Gara was kicking coach at Racing when he was much more than that. It's just a name for another coach, and it's quite often a stepping stone for early on coaches.
Well, that's cool.
An excuse to get you mate in. So I think you're probably right on the
attacking assistant, or whatever it's called.
He's one of the boys.
But then it's not a stepping stone for Neil Jenkins.
No.
That is his career. But
it's a way to crowbar your mate in there, and someone who's good on tour.
I get that
and can add some value.
Yeah, I do not doubt the value of Neil Jenkins or kicking coaches, for the record. In fact, Dan Bigger described him as essential for his entire career. So I'm not doubting that. I'm doubting the role in the context of a Lions tour for 6 weeks.
Very good.
I did like the people who were disagreeing with you, who were kicking coaches themselves.
Oh yeah, that was marvellous, wasn't it?
Turkey's voting for Christmas.
Yeah. They're worth their weight in gold. Well, that's funny you'd say that. I think the same thing about rugby podcasters.
I'll just break this up with one quick email from Billy, who talks about loving the pod and stuff, and
obviously
he said lots of stuff like that. He said equally, this message is sent with sadness. It's kind of very bittersweet, this one. It's a message which is sent to portray gratitude nonetheless. Last week, my best friend took his own life at the age of 31. He was a larger-than-life character, diminutive of stature, yet a giant of a man. Simply put, he was the greatest player almost every single one of his peers played with, an imperious player with a mind that was 3 steps ahead of any other player on the pitch, and a stomach which was 3 beers ahead of any player off it. He was truly a once-in-a-lifetime player and a once-in-a-lifetime friend. And Billy just basically was saying how amazing the rugby communities, all the people that have known him and other people that have just rallied around. And I think the reason I mention this, quite a sort of, a dark message, and feel really sorry for you, Billy, but it's just just a message to sort of say this is actually what rugby does. Even when we're all disconnected physically and we're not able to get together in the way we are, Billy just said actually the rugby community and the people that he's known for years, that he hasn't seen in ages, hasn't played with for ages, have just been absolutely amazing. And I think it just speaks to the calibre of humans that you get in rugby. So if you've not gone back to your local rugby club, or you stop playing and actually you're sort of feeling a bit disconnected from the world, just get back to your local rugby club, because it's starting to open up. Just go down. Yeah,
and to the point around kind of friendships and relationships and team bonds that are forged in the Battle of Rugby are, from my experience, stronger than any. And it is testament to that fact.
Yeah, and so Billy, I could have made this exactly the same point without mentioning the difficult thing, but I just thought actually in the context of it, it just shines a light on it, and I thought it's topical given that rugby clubs are starting to open up again. So get down there, because they are amazing places. Cool, Phil. News.
Other news. So Rainbow Cup are going to have some law variations.
Yeah, this is cool.
Some of which are being trialled in Super Rugby AU and Aotearoa. So the three notable ones are red card replacements
Love it.
after 20 minutes.
Big fan of that.
Goal line dropouts if you're held up. So
I really like that.
5 metre scrums.
But what I like this because it's what I like is you've got to be really accurate. I mean, it could. Austin Healey made a good point. He said it could potentially give too much weight to the defensive side, not encourage the attacking side. But you're going to have to be on the money.
Yeah,
but I like the pressure, the scrums, the pressure.
I'm happy to see less repeated scrums.
I'm not sure if I agree with you there. I just think that holding the ball up is too much of a reward now. I mean, I'd almost be looking to engage with a player 2 yards out and try and drag him over the line and hold him up, because it's such.
I hadn't thought of that, but also I might just lie flat on the floor, 15 men across the goal line.
I think that's a reasonable way to go. I mean, I've seen it because I think Aotearoa do it or AU do it.
I think AU are doing it at the moment.
It doesn't strike me as a massive change to the game. It's not the end of the world.
No.
But I prefer it not to happen.
And I love there's been some incredible goal line stands where you have had repeated scrums. There's an Australia-Argentina one a few years, a good 5 or 6 years ago in the Rugby Championship that was amazing.
Don't forget Bath versus Sale in 2017.
The 6-3.
What a game that was.
So I love those, but I think too many scrums are ambiguous over. A penalty is given and it's ambiguous over who caused the penalty.
Yeah,
so fewer scrums isn't necessarily a bad thing. The other one is something that has been trialled in Super Rugby Aotearoa and actually came into effect deciding the Chiefs Crusaders game this weekend, which was the Captain's Challenge.
I love this one most of all.
So this is the captain can challenge any try-scoring decision, although they need to be specific. They can't just say, I want to look at every single bit of play in the last 5 minutes up to that try-scoring, or any specific foul play, or anything in the last 5 minutes of a game. And in the Chiefs Crusaders game, Chiefs got a turnover with about a minute left on the clock. Crusaders challenged it, but the challenge was incorrect. So they lost the challenge. It was deemed to have been a correct on-field decision. Ooh. So it's quite an interesting. It's quite interesting. I do worry about same as I mentioned before with the ambiguous scrums. The more times that you review slow motion footage of incidents, particularly rucks and mauls, the more you will spot actually multiple infringements. So it might get everything very pedantic in those last 5 minutes anytime a team has something that they don't want to happen.
That's fair. Well, I think the two prerequisites for this working is, one, it means the TMO can just back off a little bit. You don't need to pipe up every few minutes with you need to have a look at this. Just, maybe you can let stuff go because the captains have got the opportunity, and presumably it's much like cricket or tennis. If they make a challenge and it's upheld, then they retain the challenge. So leave the players and the referee a little bit more TMOs. You can just shut your trap a bit, and I think that would be for the betterment of the game. And equally, the other thing is, if a ref hasn't spotted it on the field, then he can skew it in those 50-50s with well, I didn't see it, so I'm going to stick with on field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the cord thing, I think it's a good shout. I do not understand. Well, I do understand why people say it, but there is a school of thought that this doesn't incentivise. It does wind me up. This that it incentivises players cheap shotting other players.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
I think
that is
nonsense.
absolute nonsense.
I love the idea that, yeah, okay, look, here is your shot for England. Okay, like they've just got some rowdy plumber on the field who's going to go. I mean, you'd know who it is.
Yeah, Warren Gatland's in the stands,
Yeah.
so don't worry. You can just go off for 20 minutes. 20, and your team can lose a player for 20 minutes, and you can be off the whole game. Just go and wallop someone around the head.
Can I run through the idiocy of this of this plan? So you're going to have to get someone from outside the game to do it, because if you're actually involved in the game in any way, your career would be so adversely affected by being known as the guy who comes on to hit. I mean, you probably wouldn't be. You probably wouldn't even be allowed to play because your bans would be so long, and you wouldn't be making any money because your fines would be so high. So exactly what you'd be doing, I don't know.
Well, Dylan Hartley could come back out of retirement just to be like the henchman.
Yeah, I mean, we would know, wouldn't we? And
Yeah.
then we could target him. So it's ridiculous. The other thing as well, which I think people forget about this, and I'm sure many papers on criminology have been written in this regard, which is the actual sanctions or the severity of the sanction isn't that effective in stopping people doing what they're going to do. The chance of being caught is a lot more effective. So if your train of thought is, this is World Rugby or rugby not taking player safety seriously, well, I guess that there's a good chance you don't play the game to start with. But let's say you do, and you know what you're talking about. Well, that's absolutely wrong, because the biggest disincentive is being caught, not the actual length of the sanction.
And 15 broadcast cameras on professional games now. You're going to get caught.
Nobody wants to lose a player to a red card.
And even if you get away with it within the 80 minutes, you don't get away with it, generally speaking, afterwards, and you find yourself with a hefty ban that's going to have massive consequences for your team and for your own career.
Let's just picture this scenario. Leinster versus Exeter. And Leinster theoretically put one of their best players on the bench, and they call up some thug because they think in the first 20 minutes they'll get more of an advantage by having this thug run around trying to target Joe Simmons, and then after 20 minutes of not having another player, they can bring their slightly better player back on. Nuts. So no, that is not a thing which is likely to happen.
Speaking of officiating, friend of the pod and all-round good egg, JP Doyle is back with the whistle in Major League Rugby and appears to be very much enjoying himself.
It's not my first week doing this. Yeah, I know. Okay. Let me do it.
It's going to be the area.
Get out of there. Get out of there.
A little frustration going on here.
Right amongst it there.
Obviously, Seattle a little frustrated. Toronto being the aggressors. They want to assert their dominance and, step on the throats a little bit here, and that's just what you got to do.
So why are you doing that?
Sure.
How about you play your game for the blue team?
Yes, sir.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
There's a whole video doing the rounds on Twitter, which is just some great JP.
I can't believe we don't need JP allegedly in the English game. I just can't believe that he's surplus to requirement.
I know. I really like him.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Two other interesting bits of news. Fiji Jura and Moana Pacifica have been granted licenses from, I think, New Zealand Super Rugby to potentially enter teams into the 2022 competition.
Wonderful.
Don't know. Maybe. I literally don't know enough about the situation to say if it's going to be good or bad, or I don't know.
But I
think it's external investment to create two pathways for talented
Great.
Pacific Island players, which you're right, on the face of it sounds brilliant. There could be disasters if it's badly influenced or badly organised, but it does sound very good to me. And the other one, this is an interesting one. TJ Perinara is reportedly being tapped up by the Sydney Roosters to go and play in the NRL because Sydney Roosters have a massive problem. They've got multiple injured hookers. So TJ Perinara being picked as a hooker.
Feels like a very expensive way to get a replacement hooker, doesn't it?
Well, and this must be also because New Zealand Rugby don't want him centrally contracted anymore.
Do they not?
Imagine being that good. You're just like, well, I can take or leave TJ Perinara. The guy's class.
Potentially, yeah. I really rate him. I actually think so. He's playing in Japan at the moment.
Okay.
Now I don't know what the situation is, whether he's on a Ben Smith or Dan Carter type sabbatical.
Okay, where he can go and do a short-term stint and then come back. Oh, that makes sense.
Which might be possible, but I think he is class. I actually think he would be amazing. I think possibly the one role he could be better than rugby union scrum half is NRL hooker. I think he's absolutely perfect for that role.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know really enough about the role of an NRL hooker, but what it does strike me is maybe there. I don't know. It just feels to me like there's a little bit more publicity there than maybe rugby need, because it does feel like a very expensive way to get yourself a player from a different code. And I can't think of many players that have gone from rugby union as a scrum half as a rugby league hooker.
So I
can't think of any.
I've never seen it before. That I can recall.
Well, I think the thing about rugby league is, except for the couple of big Bosch men or absolutely rapid wingers, it doesn't really matter. They're all kind of relatively within certain boundaries of size and shape, generally speaking.
Hooker and halfback are two where it is quite a specific rule, because you tend to play kind of left and right as halfback, dummy half.
There you go.
But I think Perinari, his physicality, his strength, his speed, and his handling skills are perfect for that role.
It nearly went the other way round. So Kieran Cunningham was about to be signed by the WRU. They literally didn't know where to play him. But he was a rugby league hooker. But he doesn't transfer. He'd have to be scrum half, but that doesn't sound right to me that he'd be any good at that. No, maybe he would be. I don't know.
Scrum half and rugby union is too technical.
So I looked up as one of the things. I looked up the sizes of rugby league hookers. So just to see, so TJ Perinara is 6 foot and 95 kg.
Is he?
There or thereabouts.
That's bigger than I thought.
Yeah, Perinara he's a big physical scrum half. So I looked up the three hookers I looked up were
Malcolm Alker.
Not Malcolm Alker.
Okay.
James Roby.
Yeah.
Who is shorter and lighter than TJ Perinara.
Oh, there you
go. Kieran Cunningham, who is listed as 107. He's shorter, but listed as 107 kg.
Oh wow!
So wow, I don't know where the hell you would play him if he played in, because he was stocky. Kieran Cunningham was.
Gareth Hock. Did you look at Gareth?
I didn't look at Gareth Hock. The other one I looked at was the Australian great Cameron Smith, who's same. I think he's an inch taller, but about 5 kilos lighter than TJ Perinara.
That'd be cool. I might watch the odd NRL game.
I'd really like to see it. And NRL, it's a rich sport. Like some Burgess did not leave Bath and England money for pittance.
It is a well-run, good tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really, really cutting edge as a sports organisation.
Sonny Bill didn't leave Toulon to go back to the All Blacks.
Thursday night, UK great Cal Eastman was playing for Leeds. I cancelled bloody Sky Sports. I thought I'll never need this ever again because there's no rugby on it. Wrong.
Lions coming up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a mistake. What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know what I've done or why I've done it.
Just wait a couple of months.
Yeah, wait till after the Lions.
I immediately resubscribed for £18 a month for Sky Sports F1. 18 quid a race. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That is quite a lot of money.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all the kind of weird and wonderful headline news of the week.
That's the news.
We did miss the idea that Gatland said it would be a coin flip for English players if they were... if they're in a 50-50 situation, the fact that they're not getting released means that they might not get selected.
Bullshit.
I'm not sure it is.
So we've seen this before. As in, Gatland has had players who've been playing in it. He's had Falatau... he's had other players playing in England, and if they're good enough, they will get picked. Now, the 50-50 thing will be an interesting one, and I probably do agree. If you've got two players who are almost identical and you get one for an extra couple of weeks, you're probably going to go. But I mean, where are those coin tosses going to come?
Yeah, I can't think of two.
You're not going to pick a lesser player.
No,
for a Lions.
You're not.
And if he's better anyway, you're going to pick him.
And this
exactly.
Is
like Falatau's playing in England. Falatau will be going on the Lions top.
Yeah.
Over, I guess, who'd be the guy? Like Moriarty would be the other option.
You're not going to pick anyone a bit ahead of Conan. There you go. Someone in form playing really well. Number 8, Conan. Yeah.
Dave Ewers.
Dave Ewers in England. Dave Ewers over Who's the...
Reece Ruddock.
Yeah, that is a good shot, actually. They're 1A and 1B.
So,
I'd still pick
I'm not sure. Do you think that conversation is going to be had?
I'm not sure that toss-up is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll tell you two players who are very similar, who are playing this weekend in stature. Stuart Hogg and Jack Nowell. They're physically, they're basically the same height, basically the same weight, similar speed. One's a little bit faster top end, one's a little bit more steppy, but they're both that powerful rump, that powerful chest. Yeah, great to see.
So what's going on here is I think it was back in, it might have been earlier, but let's say it was November, some time ago now, it was said, well, that's the international window, and our Premiership is finishing on June the 26th, by the way. So international windows are international windows. Warren Gatland and the Lions opted voluntarily. It wasn't pre-organised. They said, we're going to have an extra 2 weeks of tour, getting together and a game. And the Premiership said, OK, well, you don't just get our players just because you've decided to do it 2 weeks early. And I think basically all that's going on here is the Premiership are saying, well, you don't just get to say, so we'll have your players. Yeah. Like, don't you think the Lions, a massive money-making spinner, should actually say, you want players 2 weeks early? Premiership clubs are with no crowds and with no income are spending a ton of money on these players. It's reasonable to come to an agreement with the Lions where you say, you're making a lot of money out of that game at Murrayfield, television money. Just give these Premiership clubs a little bit to recognise the sacrifice that they're taking by paying them a load of money, and you're taking them when they're due for their services.
I think there's a few things going on here, isn't there? There's this competition between these two organisations, Premiership and the Lions. Lions seem to think that, kind of like you're implying, that they're kind of too important, and therefore, because they've had a game, the Premiership need to say, yeah, fine, take our players. On the other hand, they are very important. And I think there's some common sense middle ground here, because
I agree.
What the Premiership needs to remember, and I am phenomenally grateful to all of the owners in the Premiership for funding all this throughout the pandemic and whatnot, because it does cost them money. And there are different ways they get grants, there's different ways they structure their businesses, but ultimately they've ridden this thing through, and it's cost them an awful lot of money. So I'm very grateful for what they've done. But the counter side to that is, in order to get last season done, and then to plough through this season, and then to get all the internationals in, which are all the things which make the money to make sure the BT Sport comes in.
Within the international windows that are pre-agreed.
Yeah. But to get all of that done, they've had to ride the players bloody hard.
Yeah,
massively.
Yeah, since rugby restarted.
Yep.
Now, if these players are being threatened, and this is kind of where I really think it's a little bit underhand, actually, using the players as almost like a bargaining chip.
Which side's using it like a bargaining chip?
I'd say the Lions,
more
than anything else.
I think it is.
They're saying, well, you might not get picked. Now that might be serious. It might not be. But I think the Premiership also have to have a think about that and think, well, okay, it's very rare that a player is good enough to be a Lion, and then they've got to be lucky enough to be in form during that time period, and hope that all the competition, all the bits and pieces fall into place so that they do actually become a Lion. Because you could be good enough, but you might not be good enough at the right time. You could be good enough, but you might not be as good as your competition. Yeah,
or you just get injured. Yeah. Or something else stops you from playing.
And also, only two teams will be playing that weekend, which will be who are Exeter Chiefs
and Bristol.
And Bristol.
And so using that as a test case, let's say Sale Sharks don't make it to the Premiership final. Sorry, JB. Let's say they don't for the purpose of this. Alex Sanderson, absolutely no way in hell, and Simon Orange as well. Owner at Sale, there's no way they're saying to Tom Curry, sorry, you can't go to Jersey. So that's what they're saying now.
Yeah.
But when it came to it, they're not going to say, don't go to Jersey, don't play at Murrayfield. It's not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
You increase the value of your assets, i.e. Tom Curry, by him going on the Lions.
And Tom Curry would be massively resentful of that, rightly so. That will not happen. I'm telling you, that will not happen. This is just at this moment in time, it's a negotiation that should be happening behind the doors. And I don't know why Warren Gatland made a public statement. I think it was really silly of him to say it. Because, as you say, it puts players in an awkward position. Yeah, and this isn't their fight. And actually, it's at boardroom level. Lions need to go, we're making an absolute shed load from this tour. Yes, we'll give you a little bit of cash.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I just think that that you underestimate Premiership rugby there. I think they will hold the ground together. They've done it before. Sale have done it before. They didn't let AJ McGinty go to the Barbarians. I mean, that's a slightly different thing, but still. I think that they will hold firm. I do think it's ridiculous for Saracens to take this stance, though. So Saracens have said...
They're a shareholder with Premiership Rugby Limited.
So it does show that they have solidarity across the entire organisation.
Yeah.
And I actually think that Warren Gatland's comments have probably increased that solidarity.
Yeah, and I think the Lions should pay. I think
they should pay.
That's the... But there'll be certain players, for example, Stuart Hogg, who will definitely be on the Lions tour. No question whether he's available just for the test matches.
And could well be in a Premiership final when they're playing at Murrayfield.
Yeah, he is not... He will definitely tour regardless of whether he's available.
Tom Curry
for
will
those 2
definitely
weeks.
tour even if he's in a Premiership final.
Yep, and he will be in a Premiership final, I'll guarantee that much.
Yeah. So... as for the just before we move into these games, a wonderful bit of philosophy from Pen the Baker on our live chat on YouTube right now. Life is like a box of chocolates. It doesn't last as long if you're fat.
I guess.
I guess that's true. That's prophetic there. And with that, we'll move on to the actual rugby this weekend.
Righto.
Where do you want to start? Friday
there's
night?
so much stuff to get into. In fact, I wish we should have just spoke about all the Premiership and then got to news.
The most significant game was today.
I agree with that. I think today killed off the top 4 challenge for 2 teams. For one team.
Leicester.
Yeah. I think their top 4 challenge is done now, which is a shame because they were really building something.
I mean, they're 12 points off top 4 at the moment.
Not happening.
That's big, isn't it?
And I'm surprised. I'm surprised that Leicester lost going into the game. I predicted them last week that Leicester would win.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's 15 minutes left on the clock and Leicester are 10 points ahead, I am staggered that Bath came back. But fair play to Bath for coming back.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's a poor performance by Bath. Yes, they were.
But a great result.
Great result. Very poor performance, and they're built back to front. The more I watch this team, the more I think it's an absolute. Whatever's going on in their coaching, it's just wrong. Right. I mean, for them to be where they are, I'll tell you a really interesting little anecdote from this week. Steve Borthwick was doing the press rounds on the Zoom calls, and someone asked Steve Borthwick, "So you and Bath are, you're similar sort of teams. How do you see it panning out on the weekend?" He did not take kindly to this at all. He's like, no, they've got more investment in their squad, and also their coaching team has been been together a lot longer than ours. They're much further on than we are, and I think he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. They are built back to front. They don't seem to have any basics. They had no scrum. Their defence is okay. They like to hit, but they don't like to defend. They're all about attack. Their breakdown work is sometimes good. It's sometimes shoddy. I just think their basics are awful.
So I actually quite like their scrum. They struggled a bit a few times, but they've got a bloody good front row. And Obano, Jack Walker, who's starting today, and Will Stewart. I think Will Stewart's in superb form.
Will Stewart is an exceptional player, but they got penalised off the park at scrum time.
Yeah.
No two ways about that.
But the Bath, in terms of their overall structure, that they did struggle with. I mean, Matavesi compared to George Ford.
Yeah.
At 10, it is.
They won with a guy who's not a 10 at 10. And they came back from 10 points down with 20 minutes left.
I have to correct you there. They won with a 10 that is a 10 at 10.
Because Orlando Bailey came. But,
I'll give you that, Tim.
They did win. They played most of the game with a 12 at 10.
They played the whole game with either a 12 at 10 or a kid at 10.
What we're looking at,
right, against the starting number 10 for England.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at with Bath is a team that should be dominating English rugby. I really think.
Well, mate, I think no.
Why?
No.
Think about the back rows, okay? Say if you just a blank sheet of paper.
So you've got Bristol, Exeter, Sale, Harlequins in this league, and you're saying they should be dominating English rugby.
I think have got a squad the equal of Bristol. Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. So imagine that you had just a blank sheet of paper, and you were picking, for instance, like the best back row in the world, and you just listed all of your back row. You'd probably pick 3 of their guys fairly high up. I'm not saying they're 1, 2, and 3, but they're probably like 7, 15 and 20. I mean, they're bloody incredible players.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of incredible players, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they are massively underperforming compared to the talent. Now, this year in particular is difficult for them because so many of their guys are internationals.
Yes.
Like, you've had more than half the Premiership season without... Well, Underhill's been injured, but he would have been with England without Faletau.
Watson.
Yeah, Watson, Jonathan Joseph.
Jonathan Joseph didn't go with England in the end, and he's been playing quite well.
He's been in and out.
Yeah, because he went in. He was in with England in the autumn, which he missed games, and he was in the shadow squad. Yeah. And then he had the little ban.
The thing is with these players, though, right? Is that
red path as well.
Is that
red path.
Like that they're internationals.
Yeah.
And then you constructed a squad of internationals.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah. So you know what you've got. And they've re-signed them. They've kept this team together for a fair while now. I really think that if they had a coach the quality of, well, frankly, Pat Lam or Baxter or Borthwick.
Pat Lam is, I think he's the best paid coach in the world.
Yep.
Could we argue? Could we say and I think you could legitimately make a case for this with Bath. Could you say, had this season not been structured in the way it is, where you have games week to week to week to week to week, which has a disproportionately large effect on teams with international players, this year more than any other year, that could potentially be worth 2 wins out of 16. It could turn 2 of Bath's losses into wins. That's not an unreasonable thing to say with the amount of players they've lost. And if that were the case, then they're around top 4.
Which is what they achieved last season.
And I think that's a fair shout. I would say this though: if your job is to construct a rugby team, don't buy internationals. Have a few by all means, and maybe promote a few through the academy. And they play really well, and they become internationals. Don't keep buying in internationals.
Which internationals have they bought in recently?
Or indeed re-sign them. You have to construct a squad which is balanced because you're trying to win the Premiership. You're not trying to just win the occasional game with a few players.
You're preaching to the converted there, because I've said for years there's no point. You might as well get a load of South Africans in. There's actually no point buying top end English talent into your squad. And look at Harlequins and the difference in their side when Marler, Brown and Kerr aren't England internationals versus when they are.
And that's a good example, isn't it? That's an example of a team which got really lucky with international call-ups, have got the consistency. But then when you look at Bath play, you don't think, oh yeah, if only they were together for a bit longer. You look at them and you think they're clueless. They're absolutely clueless.
Well, I'll put it another way. Sorry, Phil. I appreciate I'm hogging the mic a little bit, but I'll just jump in with Quins as well, and I'll say, don't you think out of 16 games, had Marcus Smith had what you wanted and been an England international, that could have been worth at least a couple of defeats for Quins that are wins, because
I'd say
so and then suddenly Quins are in 7th or 8th position.
Quins are very, very lucky.
I don't think you can make huge sweeping statements like you are with Bath in this particular season. I agree the effect having internationals has had, and I dislike the fact that is the case, but I don't think you can just write it off, because I think Quins could quite easily, if Marcus Smith had been England's 10, as so many people were clamouring for, they'd be 10 or 15 points worse off, and Bath could be 10, 15 points better off if it was a normal season.
I think, look, Quins have been lucky, because obviously Marler's an excellent player and he's been awesome this season. Marcus Smith's been awesome. I mean, on form, Danny Kerr's probably one of the best scrum halves in the Premiership. His try-scoring form certainly suggests that.
And he's hugely influential on them. Yeah. And Brown is arguably the form English fullback, albeit Max Malins after this weekend might say a thing or two about that.
Yeah. The Leicester team that faced off against Bath today was not the same calibre, man for man, except for George Ford. And they didn't even react to George Ford. I mean, George Ford was kicking over the back three's head continuously all game. I was thinking, are they not going to be aware of this at some point?
Did he do a spiral bomb today?
Did he do a spiral bomb?
They would have mentioned it if he'd done a spiral bomb.
I don't remember anyone mentioning one. Maybe they didn't then.
He must not have done.
No.
Must not have done a spiral bomb.
There are a few things about people talking about kicking, right? I heard someone the other day describe how you execute a kick by kicking through the ball. As opposed to what? What else would you do? Kick past the ball?
I'm just trying to think.
There's no other way to kick a ball, is there, except for kicking through it? Slice the ball?
You can do like a punch kick, as in
No follow through.
yeah, no follow through. You stop as you make contact with it.
Yes, you could do
Like
that.
imagine you're trying to put backspin on a snooker ball.
You can also do the spiral kick to touch, where you kick it off the outside of your foot.
Slice it almost.
Yeah.
Banana it.
Well, it kind of goes straight. Well, that's how I used to kick it, but almost your toes pointing inwards.
Yeah. It's one of those phrases.
Are you
where-
a kicking coach, Tim?
Yeah. Well, I can be. I'm good on the beers, Gats.
Yeah. You want a 6-week contract? Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like it's something you say to sound. I don't know. It's one of those things that I think. Well, obviously, that is the thing that you do. You kick through the ball.
Well,
Yes.
the one thing I will say for Bath today is, and you have been critical of Stuart Hooper. I think you don't win a game in the manner that Bath won that game without being a pretty united group of men.
I think, strange enough, with the players, I don't know if I can say this. I just think no, they are so. They're so bought into that. Oh, no, forget it. It doesn't matter.
So I agree with your statement.
Yes, I agree with that statement. They're
I
very bought
agree.
into it. They are a very united team.
And Leicester are, I think Leicester are a really well organised, well drilled team. They're good defensively. They're very good tactically. They are not superstars. George Ford is a superstar. The majority of this team are not
Tell you who is a
superstars.
superstar. I'm certain of it now. I know I said it last week and the week before that, and Tim said it multiple times. Freddie Stewart is a superstar.
Freddie
He's
Stewart is
a bona fide superstar.
You just feel so like, oh, it's all right. Freddie's back there.
Safe.
Everything's okay.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, he comes from every single angle to catch that ball.
Yeah,
And it's
he
just-
gets up and he's so
Yeah.
tall. He's reading the game.
But he's always under the ball. Yeah, he's always under the ball. You
Yeah.
never sort of go like sometimes with Elliot Daly, who I don't blame Elliot Daly for because he's not a fullback.
Yeah.
But those times where Elliot Daly's had to sort of use all of his gas to cover 50 metres to make up for the fact he was out of position. Freddie Stewart's just there.
Outside of maybe Israel Folau, I don't know who gets up in the air better than Freddie Stewart.
Dan Bigger.
Maybe Dan Bigger. Maybe Dan Bigger on his own kick chase, but kicking the ball to him.
Yeah.
He looks like an absolute superstar. I thought, what's his name? Looks good. 12.
Dan Kelly.
Dan Kelly looks very
Dan Kelly
good.
looks
Although, yeah, very good. So, what did Borthwick say this week? Which you'll like? I certainly liked it. He said that as they're building this squad, the three things they're focused on: defence, breakdown, set piece.
I thought you were going to go defence. Defence. Defence.
Yeah.
Defence, line speed, Wolves.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to start. If you get those foundations in.
Yeah,
You
and
know-
that's why I think Bath do need credit. The team that was on the pitch in the last 10 minutes when they came back from 10 points down to win the game, they're breaking down a very good, not man for man necessarily, but a very well drilled and intelligent team. A team that had controlled the game really well.
Intelligent, except when Jasper Wiese just gives away a brain dead pen.
So Bath to win that, for Leicester to win that, they have to play not a perfect game, but a very, very high-end game.
Everyone has to play at the maximum of their ability.
Pretty much. And then as soon as Wiese has that little tantrum, which was so stupid.
I mean, I like alpha male moves from
Yes, I do
alpha
as
male
well.
men. But it was stupid.
And I always thought the penalty was a bit harsh, but then, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
That would be easier, wouldn't it? Do it. And it all came from that.
Well done, Bath, then.
Yeah, well done, Bath. And there was something. It will come back to me. It will come back to me. There was something pertinent that I felt. But what I will say, this is from Burge on the live chat, who says on Quins, we just sort of mentioned the comparison between Bath. Quins have constructed a great team and a decent squad, but are in trouble when Marcus finally gets the call up he deserves.
Don't disagree.
Because he is so unique. Is there a bigger drop off between 1A and 1B? Maybe George Ford at Leicester.
What do you think about this? George Ford was doing interviews during the week, and he was asked about the situation of 10 for Leicester Tigers. And he said basically, no, he didn't say basically, he did say this, he said that he's very happy with the strength and depth and this, that and the other. And this is something which Dan Bigger said on Rugby Dungeon when I was like, how do you interact with other 10s? because of course I think of Dan Biggar as an absolute assassin for the Tens, in his own club. But they both were praising the strength of depth. I just can't imagine that they're serious about that, or maybe they're so confident in their own ability. Like if you had two guys who were broadly equivalent, I wonder if they'd be quite so complimentary about each other.
I think particularly in the case of George Ford and Dan Biggar, who know they're going to be away for large chunks of the season, it's in their interest. When they come back, they want to be in a team that's they can push on to win titles.
It didn't strike me that Burns and Priestland work particularly well together.
Yeah. I think Burns and Priestland, because there was always that question mark over who was supposed to be, whereas George Ford and Dan Biggar, no. I mean, Biggar's arguably the one with slightly more pressure on him from Grayson, but there's still no pressure. Dan Biggar is the starting fly half for Northampton.
Yes.
And that there is no concern or no question from anyone about that.
So they're very happy with McPhillips and Zach Henry. They think they're both some good...
Bonilla.
Is he not gone at the end of the year?
Well, I don't know.
He might go at the end of the year. He's still there now, isn't he?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting point that they must be either very, very secure or they're lying through their teeth, because I can't imagine that they'd be so accommodating if someone was breathing down their neck. I mean, the finals and stuff.
There is an element in most of those player interviews that you just have to take everything with a pinch of salt, because they are always going to toe the party line.
Yeah. I did remember what I was going to say, and I'm only saying this. I have said it many times before, and it's so easy to say. Hindsight is 20/20. But when George Ford slotted the penalty with whatever it was, 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, he got two in the last 15 minutes.
It was like one with like 7 minutes to go. Yeah, that put Leicester 6 clear. They were 3 clear. 6 obviously gives them a 6-point buffer, and as it turned out, had Ben Spencer not kicked the conversion, it would have been decisive. But I have said before that when time's running down the clock, keeping it near the opponent's line and giving them 100 metres to go is actually not a bad position to be in. And sometimes taking 3 points and then conceding all that territory, which is so hard to get.
I mean, Leicester were 1 point away from beating a team who scored 3 tries to their 1.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed the fact that they were kicking their points all the time, just building that score, keeping scoreboard pressure on, and making Bath have to play.
Yeah, but you're right. With hindsight,
it's always 2020.
Yeah, arguably it would have been better to stick it in the corner, keep up the jumper, and eat up as much of that last 10 minutes.
Did you notice how Zach Mercer was scrummaging?
Yeah, he was off the scrum until the hit, and he timed the hit. What impressed me about that was how well he timed it, because he timed it so that he arrived from out of the scrum, not bound on, to his shoulders up the second row at the moment they hit. It was very
it really stood out to me that. You think you've seen quite a lot of stuff, and I've never seen that before. Like did you see it, Phil?
I didn't notice it.
One hand on, one hand on the deck. So one of the reasons that's interesting to me, aside from Bath scrum actually got battered, but actually Bath have got a great scrum coach too.
When you say battered, it was all hinging pens. It was they never took a step backwards.
If you're hinging, you're getting battered.
No, I know, but they never took a step backwards. It was they were technical pens.
Well, if you're hinging, you're not doing a great job. So either way.
I think saying getting battered is a bit...
They were getting battered. Look at the pens. They were getting hammered. Have you ever seen the video about social loafing?
Yes. Right. No, I know about social loafing from my psychology days.
Right.
There's just...
So there's a social loafing video on Facebook, YouTube, and they've got I think it's a bunch of kids. It might actually be All Blacks. I'm not sure if it's All Blacks or kids. It's one or two. Let's call it All Blacks. And they're just doing like clapping in a circle. So like you clap and you clap really loud, and then you clap and you both then start clapping less loud, and I clap less loud because as you know, Tim, social loafing, right? You don't clap as loud because everyone else is doing the work for you.
Yeah.
So they were applying...
It's also why communism doesn't work.
Exactly right. So they and scrimmaging. So they're saying like you might not be putting in your maximum effort because you think the guy next to you is putting in their maximum effort, and no one can really hold you accountable. So Ireland got over this little problem. They used to be building their scrum from the number 8. So they'd start with the mindset that number 8 does the most pushing, even though that's clearly false, just to make sure that number 8 in the back row were really pushing.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that Zach Mercer was actually pushing.
Very good. I like the game theory element of it.
You are right that last week we were saying I think Leicester might challenge, and I came away from seeing Leicester at against Newcastle thinking, that
They can challenge.
They can challenge, and you're right. In one conversion from Ben Spencer, and obviously there's 80 minutes that contributed to that, but in that one conversion, any chances I think were dashed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now they're in a battle to try and get top 6.
If they want top 6.
They want top 6. Of course
They do. Leicester, if you ask any fans, they do. But I guess the point I'm making is this is a young team.
On a journey.
They are on a journey.
On a journey?
They're on a journey, yeah.
Young team on a journey. But they don't have the strength in depth as some of the other teams who will definitely want to be competing in the Heineken Cup. It is not always the best thing to get top 6. That's the point I'm making.
I look at their squad, and I do think, are they spending their salary cap? It doesn't feel like they are.
They've cut so many players over the last few years.
Yeah,
and the more in season they've cut players.
Well, technically they're still paying for
4 or 5 of them.
A bit of Manu Tuolangi, and they're still paying for a whole chunk of Jordan Taufua. And
Taufua I think has gone legitimately.
No, I know they're gone, but they would have had to have paid him off.
No, because Taufua re-signed, didn't he?
Oh, he re-signed. The others that they severed. Talusa Vayanu.
Noel Reid. Bateman. Greg Bateman.
They're still paying for them now.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So they'll have money to spend. They probably are spending the cap, but they will have a big chunk of money to spend next season and beyond.
And if they've got a good bunch of players now, it depends. What do they do with that salary cap? Because I think what they should do. So
give it all to George Ford.
A few more tens.
A few more tens.
Give it all to George Ford. an extra 400k for George Ford.
Lock up the younger players for even longer.
Freddie Stewart.
That is what
George Martin. Dan Kelly.
Van Portfleet.
Yeah, all these guys, just give them some more money, because before you know it, they're going to be starters, and then they're going to be really good starters. And
Joe Hayes.
They'll all go
Hayes.
Although his discipline was bad when he came on today.
Then they'll all go to England, then you'll have wasted your money. So go and buy South Africans.
more South
Africans.
Another Wiesen, Liebenberg and Brink.
And let's jump from sort of that battle up the top to there's another gap that has appeared below Leicester. Where those 4 are now adrift, and we can we can just mention Worcester in cursory fashion. They are bad.
You've got to ask questions now.
They are bad.
They've obviously made some management decisions, haven't they, at Worcester, and they've said, okay, we don't really like Solly. We're going to go with John Thomas. I think probably looking at Solomon leaving sooner rather than later. They don't look any better under Jonathan Thomas than what they did under Solly.
No, and this was pretty much as close to full strength as they can put out.
Yeah.
Subject to...
With a few injuries.
Yeah.
Duncan Weir, Nick David.
Yeah.
Chris Ashton.
Milani
Nanai.
Yeah, but this is the strongest team that they could put out. Yeah. So they were going for this game, and they got battered.
They got absolutely battered.
By a very good and buoyant Harlequins team who are getting results all over the place.
Pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, it's disappointing. 1 win for Worcester, a team which I thought at the start of the season were well coached, well put together.
Yeah.
It seems to have gone backwards. It's a shame.
Yeah. And actually, it's kind of what we had always complained about. Well, I still complain about with the lack of relegation this season, and looking like if it gets signed off by the RFU Council the next 4 seasons. Just one thing on that, by the way. Again, so the story's been out for a little while now that the proposal to extend no relegation and maybe expand the Premiership to 14 teams for up to 4 years. So the Premiership clubs appear, if Chris Foy from the Daily Mail's article is to be believed, behind closed doors, they appear to have come up with this proposal, which then goes to the RFU Council to get signed off. What are the RFU doing signing that off? Because aren't they? I'm just thinking about this in basic terms. Aren't they a union that represents all rugby union clubs in England? Like you and me, Didsbury Tock H, me at Broughton Park, and Phil Sedgley Park. They represent those members, and they're signing off unilaterally a call that's gonna actually peel the Premiership away from every other club in their whole pyramid of clubs.
But so in my mind, I don't care about that. I don't think it is beneficial to have the pyramid structure. I don't think that professional rugby and amateur rugby
No, but
interface.
I understand that.
Well.
But the RFU shouldn't be going. Yeah,
Well,
cool,
why?
great.
I don't really get why. I mean, if I was a Premiership, I think I'd go one step further and get rid of the RFU altogether. I don't know why.
I think that will happen in 4 years.
I don't know why they need them. I mean, I seriously do not know. Yes, there's the unholy alliance that goes on between the players and whatnot. But it strikes me they'd be in for a much easier world, much easier life, if they did get rid of the RFU and just went their own independent way.
But then you've got the best brand in England is England Rugby and the Six Nations.
Yeah.
And so all the best players go through that. So there has to be, even though they, in some regards, they don't need each other. The RFU needs the Premiership because it needs the England players. The Premiership needs the RFU because it needs the global stage for their superstars.
Yeah, there's people in the RFU who will tell you that it's all about the RFU and it's the future, and that is the future. There's people in World Rugby who will say that they believe that the club game is the future. There's lots of different thinking about which way the game can go, and I don't think anyone knows for certain until it actually develops. In terms of the Premiership and the ring fencing, my view on this has been very straightforward, which is you can ring fence your league, providing you've got all of the other rules that go with it. And as for amateur rugby, which is what I think the Championship should be ultimately...
No, absolutely not.
Well, I just, you'd have to...
Absolutely not.
We don't know the counterfactual of a different structure.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. Look at France. Similar sized population.
That's not a counterfactual.
Well, as in a different model, a different way to go.
Yeah.
So France... So this is what rugby in England should look like, and a lot of people go look at the Championship now and say they can't compete and teams aren't going to come up, so there's no point having a structure that includes them. Just ring fence it. But that is only the situation it is because of decade or 2 decades of massively underfunding the Championship. The RFU paying for every Premiership club to have an academy which has fed their own playing squads. Having parachute payments for teams coming down and massive disparity in the amount of money between Premiership clubs and Championship. So you can't compete. But the perfect example of what it would look like if you'd spread the money a bit thinner is what's happened in France, who have 2 professional divisions. The TV deal is split between the 2 of them, 2/3 to 1/3. So you get actual proper money down in Division 2. As a result, they're able to invest in infrastructure, better stadiums, loads of thousands of people start going. They're growing the game in areas of the country that have not been rugby traditional hotbeds, like northern France, Brittany and stuff, where Van are challenging for promotion to the Pro 14 now. That would be the equivalent of Leeds becoming a rugby union hotbed with 7,000 people turning up to Headingley and getting into the Premiership, which is exactly what rugby needs. Clubs like Newcastle and Leeds and Sale to get 10, 12,000 people again. And, a team in Cumbria or a team in Norfolk or whatever, that's what's actually happened in France because they've come up with a TV deal which includes those 2 leagues, and it's gone so well that they now have a professional 3rd division.
Yeah.
And the population of France, the traditional amount of rugby playing people, the rugby television audience is all more comparable with England than England is with any other country that people try and point to, like Ireland and New Zealand, as examples of how they should run it. And so the actual example of what England should do is right there 14 miles across the channel.
Yeah, so it doesn't strike me necessarily as that the best way to go, or the way to get the difference, the way to get rid of the disparity between the Premiership and the Championship is to actually make it a bigger disparity between the Championship and the level below that, or then the level below that and the level below that. And I also don't think that we need that many professional players or that many professional teams. I don't think it's a good way.
Do you think France should just say just have a shot top 14 and that would be better for them?
Well, each model depends on what the members want and what the owners want, because ultimately it is their money. But I would think about things like.
But the owner, what's the owners got to do with it?
Everything.
Every single one of those. Every single one of those Premiership rugby club owners bought a rugby club when they knew relegation was part of the deal. You don't get to buy your You don't get to buy your way in and then change the rules.
I think you do.
Or, well, you do clearly.
That might be exactly what.
That's exactly what's happening.
But that's cartel behaviour.
Well, again, that's fine because they own the thing. They own it. So you do have to respect that it is their capital, and they get to make these decisions. Now, on the broader issue of rugby, we are looking at all this concussion debate and all the things which are coming down the pipeline allegedly at some point. And I do think we'd be very wise to separate off a big portion of the amateur game, right? And that could be all the way up to the championship from the professional game. And I'm not entirely sure we need more professional players. I don't think it'd be good to have a weaker like Pro D2 exposed to all of the issues which the Premiership and the top 14 are going to be exposed to at some point.
That's a really weak reason to make rugby amateur outside of Premiership.
And also, we do not know. There's no counterfactual to say. What if we just regionalise the championship?
Well, no, you said this before, and I get that.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is,
and we don't know. We don't know what that looks like.
All I've said, I'll tell you one thing: we don't know what it looks like. We don't know what English club rugby looks like when the top division doesn't act like a cartel. That's what we don't understand. And when the RFU funds academies in Nottingham and in Coventry, I'm trying to Coventry. Obviously, there's Wasps, and in Cornwall, in Penzance, rather than just giving Premiership clubs, which already keep all of their own TV money themselves, and the RFU pay for their academies too. I don't get that.
And, I agree with that. I don't know if there is a massive advantage to putting money or giving Premiership clubs responsibility for Premiership academies.
Well, they don't give them responsibility. Well, they give them responsibility. They also give them a shed load of money.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if there's an advantage to doing that. When actually, if they just said, do you know what, Premiership rugby, keep your players, do whatever you do. We're going to keep this money and we'll distribute it among all of the community clubs. And I wonder if you'd get more or less players. I don't know the answer to that. But I do think that a professional... it's purely my view, but that professional rugby should be professional. I look at things like the NFL, for example. They don't bother with academies. They just have a league. And I think I'd like the Premiership clubs to be doing less, actually, and then just hive off and have their own little thing. It does, if you're a real big club guy, and you've got a championship team, I think you'd rather go and watch lots of local derbies. I mean, that's what would get me excited. That's what gets me excited for my club. That's why I don't have a championship team, I guess.
The biggest games from having played in that league, the biggest games was always the biggest teams coming. I.e., it's the opportunity to go and play a Leeds or an Exeter,
Saracens.
Saracens. Like that would be, if there were fans in, Doncaster would get twice the number of fans that they would get on a normal weekend because you've got the opportunity to play the best in the world.
But that's like a once a year thing.
Well, because you'd have, I don't know, at the moment, yes, but Ealing now are a very good team. Like when London Welsh went up, you had Irish and Bristol and Newcastle at various points, or Bristol and Irish, or Bristol and Worcester.
And when London Welsh first came up, Sale almost went down had London Welsh not had that points deduction.
Yeah, I do think that getting rid of relegation is a mistake in the guise it is. But I don't think that closing off the league is a disaster.
I think we're all in that with that. I'm so one of the reasons why France can do what it does at the moment is because of the money. There is the enormous TV deal, and there is more money in the game. Like a lot of the Championship clubs, if they didn't have the handouts from the RFU historically, which I know a lot of those have been turned off now, they wouldn't be able to make ends meet at all.
But they would if the TV deal was if you took a long term.
It's not a TV deal though, is it?
Well, no. But it's a great example of what you could do. And here's what you could imagine happened. So in France, on a Thursday night, you sit down and you watch a couple of Pro D2 games.
I do like that.
Yeah,
and then over the course of Thursday to Sunday night, the last game is an 8 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday night. In between, you have games all over the time. And when there's a top 14 and French second division game on, that's 16 clubs, that's 8 games and 7. There's 15 live rugby games every single league weekend on Canal Plus, spread right across the schedule. It's like the European Cup round of 16 that we loved. It was that much rugby every weekend.
But that, I mean, that is,
fatigue.
yeah.
Christ,
that-
No. But
Tim, I'm trying to do a podcast here. I don't have enough time to watch 16 games every
Yeah.
week.
it's
you wouldn't watch them all. But my point being
Yeah.
is you get that kind of one channel subscriptions worth it kind of feel. 2/3 of the money, like I say, goes to the top 14, who could say Racing and Claremont could say, hold on, I don't want that second division club to get a third of the cash.
I'm interested. Has anyone actually watched a Pro D2 game?
We don't live in France, and we can't get it on
watch it.
Canal Plus, can we?
The reason I ask that is it even? I don't know if it. I'm being deadly serious now. Is it worth watching?
So I've seen some highlights of it. There's always some ludicrous either fights or 100-meter tries.
I'm in.
But one thing, just to jump back, you have said in weeks past and on some YouTube channel videos, you've said, the fact that the French got this massive TV deal, this is really bad news for English rugby. What you're not recognising is that 2/3 of that French TV deal is for the top 14, 1/3 of it is for the French second division.
Don't see why. What's the context?
Well, because you were saying, look at the size of this TV deal.
No, look at the size of the increase of the TV deal.
Yeah, look at the size of the increase of the TV deal. But part of that is the fact that they're spreading it across 15 games, not 6.
Are you saying that the 16% increase in the French TV deal is for the Pro D2?
No, what I'm saying is it's because Canal Plus are buying 15 live games a weekend, not 6.
So you're saying that they had an increase in games?
They now broadcast every single game, yeah.
So the increase in the French TV deal is purely down to the increase in broadcastable games?
They now have a whole weekend schedule full of games which they can then advertise in between, so yes.
So and I don't know the answer to this.
I don't know the answer to that.
Is that a new thing, as in that new schedule?
I think broadcasting every single game is,
I would be very surprised if the Premiership turned around to whoever it is and said, look, we've just gone and bought the Green King IPA or whatever it's called. Give us 18% more.
But that's now. That's now. But that's what I'm saying. You're comparing apples with oranges when you say the Championship has been done. Like every French second division club has an academy and has to have an academy and has to have a stadium of 5,000 to get in there. So you're comparing a league which has been hobbled at the knees for the last 15 years and comparing it to a team that actually someone's taken a long-term view and gone, in the future, we can grow something really big here, and that's what's happened in France. So you have to take a long-term view and go, let's tie in the Green King Championship, and it will instantly become way better.
I'm just not sure there's the appetite for it.
No,
I like the aspiration, and I like that.
Games.
Yeah, I like that vision. And certainly a few years ago when we were watching the playoffs for the Green King IPA, and we were watching Cornish Pirates and London Welsh, and
that game between Worcester and
the Worcester Bristol game was
the best rugby on TV.
But those individual things are absolutely amazing. Great stories, great spectacle. I'm not sure if there was an extra 6 Green King IPA games available per week, I certainly would. I might catch some of the highlights.
Yeah,
I certainly wouldn't be watching them.
Well, they did used to be on TV.
Of course,
we didn't watch
yeah.
But if you were from Penzance, if you were from Cornwall, you might tune in and watch Cornish Pirates.
You might, but then
there's
what's viewing numbers of the Premiership,
there's an issue there of, well, do you? Because you've got Sky anyway, do you watch it on Sky or BT rather than go to the ground? And
I think both is true. You watch the away games, you'll go to the home games more likely. Anyway, all I'm saying is Van in Brittany didn't care about rugby 5-10 years ago either, and they do now.
Yeah, which is good.
They've signed the Colossus Darren Barry.
Darren Barry to go with Henry Trinder.
Hell of a lad.
Yeah, Trinder,
Darren Barry, and Abendon.
Benders.
This was kind of what part of my video was talking about, which was we're going to start losing those sort of squad players. And I always thought it was going to be to the top 14. I never thought of it going to be to Pro D2.
Well, that's because 1/3 of their TV deal is for Pro D2.
Pro D2 is maybe the one that's going to bleed the players.
And Premiership, like the squeeze middle, which we've spoken about for a few years, but that has just been exacerbated because of the cut in salary cap. So going from 7.6 million to 5.6 million, it's massive. And Semi Radradra is not taking a pay cut.
Nor should he.
George Ford is not taking a pay cut. It's the squeeze middle. It's the bottom end or the middle players, which is not to say that they are bad players. They are very, very good players, and they're very important players. But that is what's going to happen.
Well, just let's take Darren Barry for example. I mean, a lot of people are listening to this going, Darren who? Right? A really good, serviceable second row. The kind of guy that you need coming off the bench. Every club has them. Phillips in Sale or, they're everywhere. And they are really important when you're trying to put together a squad for an entire season. That's the sort of player that will be going.
But you wouldn't spend a lot on that guy.
No. Well, and that's the point.
Yeah, and
that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, but that is the problem with the squeeze middle, because as all the superstars payments have gone up, those kind of players, they're actually probably over the last 10, 15 years, the average salary for those players has gone down.
Yeah, because it makes more sense for you to pay for your England players, knowing that the RFU will top it up. So you see less of them, you pay them more, the RFU top them up. They're the only people that you can keep. And ironically, the more reliant you get on the RFU, the less you see them.
Yeah. And certainly this season as well.
I'll refer everyone to our podcast where we actually said, all right, well, if relegation is going to happen, how do we deal with it? And we came up with loads of ideas. My thought is, unfortunately, none of those ideas are going to be part of this thought to just ring fence the league.
That's the biggest problem.
I have a feeling that there are a lot of changes coming down the pipeline for rugby if they sign off the 4-year ring fencing. Now, I know that requires...
It's not just 4 years, is it? Let's just call it what it is. It's done. It's over.
All I'm saying is that there are certain steps that the owners need to take. And I have been told that there are things in the pipeline that they want to get done, but first of all they need... Because ultimately, what they're worried about is putting their capital at risk, getting relegated, and then getting an enormous financial loss when they go down. It just means they don't have the stability. They don't have that reliance. Now, what you're saying is right, Tim, because if they had a Pro D2, it wouldn't really matter too much, because the Pro D2 is a better league.
Exactly.
But
and they'd be guaranteed to get good TV money when they went down.
Some TV money, yeah, granted, but that's not the world that they live in. And actually, they can look across the other side of the world to the NRL and say, well, why can't we do something like that? That looks pretty cool. And they are right. It is pretty cool. It's really cool. So once they get their ring fencing sorted, I believe they will come up with all sorts of other weird and wonderful things.
I hope so.
Because
ring fencing on its own.
I'm pretty sure they will, but I can't tell you what those things are.
Yeah, I hope so, because that is where CVC have to earn their money, because ring fencing could be a disaster if it leads to a far less competitive league and fewer storylines and no dead rubber games towards the end of the season. So they have to.
Yep, completely agree with that.
Other games. Tim, you were at a game.
Were you?
Yeah, Bristol. Or Newcastle, Bristol.
Oh, good, because I didn't watch that one. So tell us about it.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll start by saying that I really quite like Dean Richards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's such a wily character. So again, I'll let me give the best possible interpretation of what happened. His team got handily beaten.
Yeah.
And I was waiting patiently to ask him some searching questions before the programme ended. Mm-hmm. Dean Richards appeared for the interview at the moment we went off air. Which I think Dean Richards has been in the game long enough that he might know when we're off air and on air. I don't know, but let's just say he came out as soon as he could to have a chat.
Well,
anyway, this is why he's a wily character. Then, so the director was in my ear, just going, "All right, we'll pre-record this one for highlights packages and all the rest of it, and for other programs." And if you over to you, Tim, in 5, and then the PA's counting down, and the guy who's in front of me, the floor manager, is doing the hand count like you see on the telly, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as I got to number 2, Dean Richards went, "How's your show on Virgin Radio going, Tim?" Just at the point he knew I was about to start grilling him, and he threw a little curveball question in and it was very wily. So I just
did it throw you?
I giggled and went, "Very well, Dean. I'll tell you what, Dean. I'm going to count myself in there because I'm going to leave that one on the cutting room floor. 3, 2.
Nice.
Now, Dean, and then went into it.
Well handled.
But it was
fair play.
No, but I love that he did that. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's a canny, wily.
That's awesome,
bloke.
actually.
I've got to say, like, I've not actually gone to the Newcastle press conference yet. But there are so many wily good directors of rugby. You don't really know until you actually encounter them and speak to them, and all the rest of it. My questioning didn't go quite as smoothly as yours, Tim. I led off the questions to Alex Sanderson on the sale Zoom call. Incomprehensible questions, just incomprehensible.
Do you remember what you asked?
No, not really.
Okay.
In my mind, I wanted to ask one thing, and I asked a completely different thing. And Alexander's like, "Yeah, no, we couldn't do that, could we? No, sorry, you can't." It was just
How do you prepare for what you're going to ask?
Well, funny enough, I don't.
Okay.
What I do is I attend, and if something strikes me as interesting, I'll then ask.
Okay.
Right. But when I was on the sale call, no one was asking anything. So they were, JB. I was like,
JB, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So it's important to listen, because quite often, and this is just talking about interviewing in general, I hear it on the radio or whatever, quite often people don't listen, and they have their list of questions, and they ask the next one regardless of what the person just said.
Yeah.
So it's actually listening and being inquisitive is absolutely right. But yeah, I usually write one word down, just as a little prompt to remind me.
Shows the value, right, of just having a list of questions. Just simple. Any injuries? Just things you need to actually know, so it doesn't sound like you're an absolute chancer. Yeah. Sadly, I was caught out by Sanderson, who now does think I'm an absolute chancer.
Is that 2 weeks in a row you've been caught out by Sanderson?
Yeah, I've got the worst. I sometimes ask some really good questions, but at other times, my word.
So that's how you get better, though, isn't it?
I hope so. Maybe he's just got a curse on me now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the rugby equivalent of going somewhere and not playing well. Well, whatever it is.
Is it like you see? I'm reading this as like when you.
I'm too desperate to impress
when you fancy a girl at school and you just seize up when you go to ask them out. You've got a bit of a man crush on.
Might be that. And usually I'm effortlessly cool, but for whatever reason it is, can't do it.
But as for Newcastle, are in a bit of a tough spot. But Bristol, my word,
play well.
Yeah, they after 20 minutes when they clicked in, they did.
Because they lost Sheedy fairly early.
15 minutes in.
Yeah, Johan Lloyd came on and ran the show.
And they made 9 changes. Like Kyle Sinclair, Dave Atwood, Nathan Hughes, Charles Piatow, and a bunch of others.
Yeah,
were
Luatua,
Luatua and Randrandra were injured. But so many players fit, and they went, no, save yourself for Exeter.
So that is this win is impressive because of that. Because Newcastle, they're a difficult team to break down. They're physical. They're well drilled. Exactly as you said. Dean Richards is a wily character, a very good coach. And for Bristol to go, and it wasn't easy, but they comfortably got the bonus point win. Yeah,
you saw in the game. I was watching the warm up, and I was stood right in front of Bristol's handling drills they were doing, and it was so awesome. What you see is every single one of the players, as they do loads of different drills, but they all designed basically to do the one thing. And the attacking player is holding the ball, and they watch the defender the whole time, right up until the point they actually give the pass. They just watch the defender's body. They read the body, and you can see them just trying to manipulate what the defenders are doing, and they have one particular drill where the whole drill is 3 consecutive 2-on-1s or 3-on-2s or something, and it's about giving the pass as late as possible or deciding not to give the pass as late as possible. And it's all basic stuff, but that's exactly what you saw in the game.
If your team is ever going awry, attacking wise, it's basically width, pace, depth, and pace onto the ball is the most important thing. Yeah, the most important thing.
But the ball carrier decision making is unbelievable from Bristol, isn't it?
Yeah, and the finishing of those 2-on-1s and the manipulation of space. Andy Uren does it really, really well. Johan Lloyd does it really well with the kind of holding the ball for the extra second so you can allow the defence to kind of make a decision.
Yeah,
to trust that you've got enough time to.
You've never seen me do this drill, have you? Very similar.
It sounds it. You do strike me as similar to Johan Lloyd.
Yeah, well, Welsh.
Yes,
Welsh.
exactly.
Both male.
Can play multiple different positions.
He's an outrageous talent, Johan Lloyd.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one that breaks the 60 cap rule, I'm sure. That's the one that makes Wales short of
Because he's not leaving Bristol.
No, why would he? Why would he?
Exactly.
Okay.
Max Malins is just class.
Yeah, Max Malins.
Like, who do you pick? Who do you pick in that Bristol team next week for Exeter? Who do you pick?
Well, that's
Sir Charles.
That is the storyline, isn't it? A rested Bristol team who are awesome at what they do against an Exeter team who are really starting to hit their straps.
But like Charles Piatow, you pick him, don't you? But do you shift him onto the wing so you have Max Malins at fullback?
I probably wouldn't. I'd have Max Malins coming off the bench because he can play in multiple different positions.
Yeah.
But who knows? I would always start Sir Charles at 15.
You have to start Charles Piatow because
Of course you start him, yeah.
he's not on loan for start.
But
And
But
he's
you
the
could
most
start.
expensive guy.
Because so your options are you've got Piatow 15, Purdy 11, and Morahan 14, or you could go Purdy on the bench and Malins in 15 and Piatow on the wing.
Yeah.
Piatow on the wing.
So Piatow, Morahan, Malins.
I don't know if you just lose too much Piatow, maybe.
I
Lose
don't know,
some
but
influence on the game.
But he
To play the England fullback.
Doing that allows him to do other things. Like it gives him a degree of more freedom because he's not got as much defensive responsibility.
That's an interesting thing you say there because I always think of 15 as being the senior back three position. As in, if you're a back three player, you probably want to play 15 because it's a bit cooler and there's a bit more kudos to it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of lads who do not like playing 15 because they like being on the wing for that exact reason.
You can have some more freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just say, well, I'd much rather be on the wing and then I can do more attacking stuff, which you don't necessarily think of when you think of playing fullback. But then, look at, for instance, Simon Hammersley at Sale. He allows Byron McGuigan to go on his little scamps.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Jack Knoll back fit again for Exeter. He loves to go and play off 10 a little bit and
just
go off rucks, go off 9 at ruck time. But you can't do that when you're fullback.
No.
Yeah, it's much more difficult.
Does Piatow straight was that kind of guy?
Peter Howe can do anything.
Yeah.
Sir Charles can do
that's what he wants.
Steps in at 10 and gives Tiff Eden a bit of a rest.
Yeah, exactly. Steps in at 10, first receiver, 50 yards under the post.
Hold my beer, Tiff.
First phase off a scrum, wasn't it? Ridiculous.
What a game that is going to I
Ridiculous.
cannot wait.
So
When is it actually?
It's Friday night.
Is it Friday?
Is that Friday?
Yeah, Friday night.
At Ashton Gate?
Yeah. Don't know where it is, but it's Friday night. So.
Well, it has to be because Exeter don't play on Friday nights.
Do they not?
Nope.
Oh, they are. Well, even if BT Sport tell them to.
I think it's to do with I think it might be to do with the M. I might be something to do with the M5.
Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe.
Commuter
maybe.
traffic.
Oh, yeah.